In this video, we'll take a look at how to set a Trimble R8s receiver up for automatic data logging through the WebUI. So if you haven't already done so, you'll need to check out our video on creating a WebUI connection between an R8s and a Windows 10 computer. That will allow you to actually connect via Bluetooth from your Windows 10 computer to the R8s and access the WebUI. But once you've done that, to set it up for automatic data logging, click your icon down here at the bottom for connections, then click your R8s, then select your R8s under dial-up and choose connect. When you're prompted, all you need to do is click dial down at the bottom left, and your computer will go ahead and connect to the R8s via Bluetooth. Now, usually it's going to maintain the same IP address, but if you're going back and forth between different receivers, you may have a different IP address at some point. So it's important to check the IP address of the receiver once you're connected up to it. To do that, go down to your search window and start typing control panel. And after you type a few letters, it should pop up. Go ahead and open up the control panel. Go to Network Sharing Center, click on that to open it, and you'll see we're connected to our R8s there. So I'll left click on the R8s hyperlink and then click Details. Down under the IPv4 DNS server, that's the IP address we need. Like I said, if you're only connecting up to one receiver, this may stay the same, but if you have trouble connecting to it, you can come here and check, or you can just check every time. If you're using multiple receivers, that could change on you. That's the IP address we're going to put into our web browser. So now I'll just close this and go ahead and open up my web browser. I am using Firefox, but you can use any web browser there, and I'll type in 192.168.100.170. You'll type in whatever the IP address is for your R8. Go ahead and tap enter, and it'll pull up the WebUI. I'll type in the username and password. Click OK. And once I'm logged into the WebUI, we'll see the menu at the left-hand side of the screen. Choose Data Logging. And you can just use the default session here, so click Default. Check the box for Enable. Then set it to Always. And then set your measurement interval. Now, if you're doing data logging for Opus, 15 seconds is fine. Opus is going to decimate your data to 30 seconds anyway. If you're doing static sessions for a DOT or some other entity, you might want to choose 1 second, but go ahead and set it for whatever task is at hand. I'm going to go ahead and stick with 15 seconds here. 5 minutes on the position interval is fine. You can leave the file system internal and just click OK. It'll pop up and say setting time. If you're inside, it may have trouble doing that because it can't see the satellites. But that's all we need to do for data logging. Now, the next thing we need to do is go to Receiver Configuration, go to Application Files, and right now it's set to Current and Start Now. What we need to do is drop down and choose Store Current File, and we're going to name this file Power Up. Power_up. So power_up. What this is going to do is basically it's going to tell the receiver that every time it turns on, start logging data. So the nice thing about this is if you have a static job, or maybe your VRS network is down, or you don't have cell phone in a location, you can just set your receiver up, turn it on, and it will automatically start gathering data. If you gather at least 15 minutes worth of data, you can send that off to Opus Rapid Static and get a position back. Or if you're doing a static job, this way you don't have to have a data collector sitting with the receiver and taking up that resource. You can just carry the receiver out to your point, turn it on, it'll start logging data there. So now that I've got my power up created, I can hit OK. And like I said, now the receiver's set up to log data every time it's turned on. Now, if you do a VRS survey, any commands coming from Trimble Access will override this. So it's not a big deal. It's not going to hurt your receiver. It's not going to keep it from doing VRS or RTK or anything else. So this is just enabling it so that I can just go out, turn it on, get an Opus point, get a static point without having a data collector there. So at this point, I'm all set, ready to go. I can close my my web browser there, and I can go back down to my settings for dial-up. If you lost those, you can just come down here to connections, click on your R8, and choose disconnect. Now my computer will disconnect from the R8. I can power it down. When you're out in the field with the R8s doing automatic data logging, it's very important that once you turn the receiver on and it acquires satellites, to make sure that light number 3, the light with the down arrow and the battery next to it, is blinking once every 3 seconds. If it's not blinking, you're not logging data. If it is blinking once every 3 seconds, you are logging data. So make sure you check that before you walk away to ensure that you are logging data at the point.